I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Welcome to the first episode of Fresh Out the Porch. It's your boy Ivy Joe. You can find me on all social medias at I am Ivy Joe. That is I am IVY Joe JEAUX. And I am a member of the flagship podcast, Hot Takes and Half Truth. On this episode, Fresh Off the Porch, shall I say, we'll be diving into all things that are entertainment. Entertainment, by that I mean sports, concerts, small, big screen showings, as well as comedy shows and concerts. With that said, tonight I'm looking forward. Tonight we're recorded live in the JKM studios in sunny, beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida. We have some great weather of lately. Great weather the last few days. I was able to get out on the bike a few days, and hopefully I can get out a little later on the way to the show at the West Palm Beach Improv, where I'll be taking in a show by my brother of the K-Sci variety, Cedric the Entertainer. Looking forward to that show. Probably taking a young lady friend. Looking forward to that. But at the end of the day, today I wanted to dive into a few areas that I not able to go so much in depth in, again, the flagship show, Hot Takes and Half Truths, with my brother, Jacory, Just Kingin. With that said, today we're going to dive into movies that I recently went and saw, Anna and Men in Black, followed by going into my teams. I'm a homer. I will freely admit to that, being a homer. And by that I mean all things Louisiana. So if it's Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Southern, you know you got a fan in me. Dive into Anna. It's a film by Luke Bison of Valerian, City of Thousand Planets. That's his last few that came out. He had a few other ones where, that he's done some good work on. I guess he was his first endeavor into the small screen was La Femme Nikita. Not familiar with that show. I have to be freely honest with you. I'm not familiar with it. I've seen it on Netflix a few times, and it's definitely in my list to watch. But the reason why I want to start it with Anne, because I've been seeing a lot of reviews of lately, and a lot of people can't stand this movie. They're very high-minded on them, should I say. Feel like it's missing a lot. Not, myself, I feel like it's missing some things, but at the end of the day, it's a good movie. I would recommend anyone to go and see it. It's an action movie. I love action movies, and being that it's an action movie, that's right in my wheelhouse. It's starring a new actor. She's a actual model. It's apropos because she's playing a model in this particular film. Sasha Luss. She's from Russia, and that's where this particular genre piece is based out of. But it's also starring Luke Evans. He's a KGB agent, Alex Trefkov. Excuse me for not being able to pronounce that correctly. Cillian Murphy played Lenny Miller, a CIA operative, and then one of my favorite characters, actors, is Helen Mirren. She plays Olga. She's actually kind of the boss figure in this particular film, but she's from the Queen and the Red franchises. You may be familiar with her. With that said, unlike my colleagues that's ranking these, that's reviewing these, this particular movie, I actually enjoyed the movie. Is it a great movie? No. But I enjoyed it. I can also appreciate some of their commentary as far as it, it kind of, it's all over the place, particularly with the um, foreshadowing. They kind of jump around a lot in this movie. It's based in the late 80s, early 90s. And there's a lot of jumping around in the sense that, they're in the 90s, then they record, then they go back, they jump to 6 months earlier, or they jump 3 years earlier, then they jump a year later, and it's a lot of that. But for all intents and purpose, I feel it's a solid movie. Is it better than some of its contemporaries like Red Sparrow or Atomic Blonde? Probably not. I wouldn't necessarily say they're better than that. That it's a better film than those films, but I enjoyed it. I appreciated some of the aspects of this movie that a lot of contemporaries didn't like. Like, for instance, they brought up there's a lot of background into the modeling world, particularly when she first moves to Paris. I think that's more or less calling back on her experience, because she got her first role with one of Luke's films in the Valerian movie, another underrated movie. I actually enjoyed that movie, and I guess she was complaining to him on it about the how the industry as far as modeling has changed, and how it's moving to more like social network, social media influencers, and how that's kind of fucking up the game, so to speak. But I thought that was kind of leaning on her experience, and it 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 fell in line with what I would kind of expect from sort of how um, models get into the industry, and how they would probably be housed once an agency signs up and coming model, and just trying to get them in the atmosphere, so to speak. With that said, the movie is about a young lady named Anna. Grew up in Russia. Parents were, at least father was high up in the military. She kind of fell on bad times. One of the foreshadowing was a time when she was essentially a junkie, living with, for all intents and purposes, a scumbag. And it was kind of a rough scene how they jumped into it. I won't give any spoiler reviews on that, but it was rough. And but at the same time, I think all those scenes had their place. I also would agree with another reviewer said that this would probably been a better as, say, for instance, a Netflix miniseries, and then all the jumping around could have fit more cohesively. But again, I enjoyed the movie. Was it sort of cliche-ish? Yes. Could you see some of the things happening? Yes. But for all intents and purposes, I liked the storyline. I like how she was able to play both sides against each other. Again, you could kind of see it coming, particularly when Mr. Murphy's character, after she made so many other motherfuckers fall in love with her, he fell in love with her as well, and was trying to essentially help her get out. It was built as a female John Wick. didn't necessarily meet up to those expectations. Um, there were only really about 4 or 5 real action scenes, and of those 5, really only about 2 really in depth John Wick Ian type scenes. But again, I enjoyed it. If it's a matinee, I'll say go pick it up, go watch it. I wouldn't spend $15-20 to see it, but if it's a $5 to $10 ticket, I recommend you go see it. It's about 2 hours long. Actually, it's 119 minutes long. But the sidebar of this movie is that it's been on the shelf for the last year because Mr. Beeson's been going through sort of a Me Too movement, and that's been a lot of scuttlebutt about how the film house, I think it's Paramount, hasn't really pushed it, hasn't really pushed people to go see it, and one of the reasons why is because of that. Again, I don't get into it too much. I mean, I guess about a year ago, 9 women came out and accused him of some improprieties, sexual harassment. Even one lady actually went to the police last year, accused him of rape. And so there's been a lot of hands off with the movie. In fact, there's only been, I think, 1 trailer for this movie, and it's of the best. I guess, spoiler alert, that is the best scene, the best action scene in the whole movie. But she cuts up in that motherfucker. But again, I would say, if I'm rating it out of 10, I give it about a 6, maybe 7 out of 10. 6 definitely. I think the floor would be 5 for me, but I'm gonna go ahead and run with a 6 out of 10. It's a good. It is what it is. It's an action movie. You know what you're gonna get out of it. I tend to like to see those action movies with female leads and showing them being badasses. That's right up my alley. I like seeing it. And she's easy on the eyes, Miss Luss, Luss. But for all intents and purposes, I feel it's getting a bad rap. It's not being pushed as much as it should, and so the numbers are going to be low. I'm looking for this to be low, but of the 2 that I'm reviewing today, I would recommend seeing that in the movies, in the theater. With that said, moving on. Moving on to the next movie that I saw over the last couple of weeks, Men in Black International. Now, this movie holds a certain place in my heart as far as, coming from my youth. The first Men in Black starred the legend Will Smith, Tommy Lee, and they try to play on that franchise. I guess the one thing, and I guess to just get into it, it starred Tessa Thompson, probably one of my newer Instagram crushes, particularly from the Thor Ragnarok and Marvel Enterprise, doing as well as Chris Hemsworth play Agent H. Your boy Liam Neeson got into it. Black bastard. But it a lot of people say it's breezy. It's they giving my man F. Gary Gray a hard time, saying that he didn't necessarily bring nothing new to the franchise as far as how he shot it. It's a cool movie. It's definitely one of those movies that I definitely would say it's a Netflix red box type of movie where you watch it at the crib. It's sort of like how I do Venom at this point. Like if I'm just bored at the crib and it's nothing really I know that I want to watch, I throw Venom on, and I may watch it, may not necessarily watch it, but I always enjoyed Venom. And Men in Black International kind of fits that motif in the sense that if you're watching it at home, you're watching on Netflix, it's going to be a decent movie. You're going to enjoy it. It's, nothing great about it. Tessa's character, Molly Wright, which is Agent M. And for the most part of this movie, she's on probation. She's essentially, as a child, she see her parents get neuralized by agents, and so she spends the rest of her life trying to find the Men in Black. And then she actually finds them, and lo and behold, they put her on probation. She shows her wits, and they give her opportunity to be a part of the team, so to speak. As far as like the writing, there's nothing special about it. I enjoy, as a person that actually has been out the country a few times, I enjoy seeing, some sites that I actually visited. I have a fondness of seeing and, experiencing creative work that I can embody or I can, feel because I actually lived it. And in that instance, Men in Black International kind of plays in that line. But for all intents and purposes, again, my rating on this is it's a red box, Netflix and chill type of movie. I wouldn't necessarily waste my money to go see it. One of the biggest disappointments, and everyone's saying it, is essentially that Will Smith's not in it. I mean, and there's no reference of him in it. It's all about Liam Neeson's character, High T, and Chris Hemsworth's character, Agent H, being sort of the cool kids, the it guys, save the world type characters when, Will Smith's character, has saved the planet numerous times. So I feel like that was something that they missed out on. They should have played on that a little more. But again, I wouldn't necessarily call it a horrible movie. It's just not a, not a movie that I would say, hey, you have to see this. But with that said, if I was to rate it out of 10, I give it probably a 4 or 5, leaning closely to a 4, which, if you know me, anything in that 3 to 6 range, for all intents and purposes, would be good Netflix and Redbox type movies. So, again, I enjoy anything that Tessa does. She's a incredible actor in my opinion, and I, enjoy supporting my people. So, with that said, moving on. So, what I will say, going into this this podcast, we're gonna spend a lot of time on sports and going to actual events in the fall. I believe the LSU Texas game is on my docket. I'm gonna pass through, do a little bit of HBCU for you guys. The Southern FAMU game in September, and then probably do a weekend in Louisiana where we go to LSU and a Saints game, because there's nothing like a Saints game. Nothing like a Saints game. Nothing like a Saints game. And so be on the lookout for all that. With that said, we're going to start the sports aspect of this, talking about my team, and I'm alum. So I freely admit that, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. LSU football. So coming off of the 2018 season, first 10-win season since I believe 2013. That was the Odell and Jarvis Landry teams. A lot. I feel like those teams don't get the credit that they deserve. Unfortunately, we were dealing with that was probably 2 of the years where we had the worst defenses that we had in the last 20 years, and I would definitely put a lot of blame on the coordinator at the time, the chief. He just didn't have it in him, man. I mean, old guy, set in his ways. And, he was getting results. It was just in the big games, it just never panned out. For some reason, at the end of the game, instead of doing what got you to that point, he would fucking play prevent. And we lost 2 Alabama games that, man, they were served up for us. In 12 and 13, because of his defensive calling. With that said, get back on the subject of the matter. Coming off of a 10-win season, we, living in Florida, it was pretty dope to be here to, put UCF back in their place. I work with a lot of UCF alums, and they always want to talk about how good they are, and if they had the chance, they would beat you. They would beat these SEC schools. And I'm like, man, one time on a one-shot basis, yeah, you have a chance, but it's the thing about the SEC is it's the grind. Y'all don't have to go through the grind, and a lot of people don't want to admit to it, but it's like shit, man. A SEC school, particularly the good ones, or had a decent year, as Auburn had the year before, and then LSU this year. It's usually a letdown to be playing them on January 1st. You say what you want to say. You say what you want to say. It's a letdown.
Yes!
You know what I'm saying? It is a complete letdown to be playing UCF. No matter what their record is, it's a letdown. And it's more of a game for them than it is us. So with that said, I was fairly satisfied with at least beating them. We didn't bust their ass like I wanted to.
Yes!
But we beat them, considering, they were down their best player, McKenzie, the quarterback. He was out, but we was also down 9 players as well. And majority of them was on the defensive side of the ball, particularly in the secondary. So, I take my W's when I get them. With that said, 2019 was a pretty good year for us. It started with, again, the victory over UCF in the Fiesta Bowl. We followed that up with a top 5 recruiting class composite. That's taking into account all the recruiting services, or at least the big ones. And that class was full with a lot of potentially impact players. None to be short, none to be underappreciated, like your boy Derek Stingley, who's the number 1 cornerback in the country last year. He enrolled early. Emory, which is the number 1, number 2 running back, depending on the service you pulled up. And then we had a couple 5-star, had a 5-star linebacker, Marcellus Brook, outside linebacker out of Texas. And it's another D tackle out of Utah. I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Inca. At any rate, those guys I'm looking to see impact from them this year. And consider that we have somewhere between 17 and 18 starters coming back this year. That's pretty big. We got some depth on the defensive line. We didn't necessarily have that in the past. Fortunately, Stingley and Inca, the defensive tackle out of Utah, they were early enrollees, so they were there in the spring. Got to, got to see what the life is in a college athlete and get that coaching, see what's expected out of them. And from all intents and purposes, them boys balled out. So I'm looking forward to seeing them on the field. With that said, we had four enrollees, early enrollees, and that was probably the downside of the class is that we only had four guys come in early, and that was Stingley, Inca, guard, last name Turner. He was a 4-star prospect, and then we had junior college tight end McClellan came in. Also, a big kind of flew under the radar transfer. Michael Williams, D tackle out of Baton Rouge. The year before, he was a 3-star athlete, but he was like a numbers casualty. We couldn't offer him at the time, and so he ended up signing with Texas. But the boy, long and behold, the boy is able to come back home and play for the Tigers, and I expect big things out of him. He's a stud. I know he was just a 3-star, but he was late on the scene. Didn't really play much in high school. Only played 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I see a lot of upside in him. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. He had to sit out the 2019 season, but I'm looking to see big things out of him in the future. With that said, spring was another big addition. This spring was Joe Bradley. He was on the New Orleans Saints offensive staff the last 2 years. Big thing about him, he came in as the passing game coordinator, and I guess the big thing about him, he's supposed to bring a lot of more RPOs and 4 and 5 wides. We got to see a little bit of that in the spring. I look forward to seeing a little bit more from the offense this year, especially with Joe Burrow getting another year under his belt. He only truly got the summer and the fall, to get acclimated to the culture and the campus and the team. So I feel like with a whole year, I expect big things out of him. The only thing that kind of worries me about that is him thinking or feeling like he needs to do too much. So I guess that's my little tidbit on my apprehension on going in too far with the predictions on the fall. With that said, again, we can expect to see a lot more 4 and 5 wides. The schemes that they're going to run, they're going to be doing a lot more spacing and flooding of the zone. Pretty much, the guy, all intents and purposes, Joe should know who he's going with at the snap. But again, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but and I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself on this, but coming back into this fall, we're gonna need the wide receiver core to step up this year. Last year there was a lot of drops, tons of drops, and these boys need to pick up, and the ball hit your hand, you need to catch that shit, bro. You got the stalwarts coming back like Chase. What's your boy number 2? He's gonna be Jefferson. He's those two are definitely gonna be in the lineup. Need more out of the other guys, Sullivan, D. Anderson, even Terrence Williams. I'm gonna need more out of those guys this year. I mean, these guys all came in 4 and 5 star studs. I mean, they all 6'2" and better. Most of these guys are 6'3" and better. I think Jefferson's the shortest one at 6'2". But for all intents and purposes, they have the potential to be one of the best cores in the SEC, if not the nation. It's all about those drops. Additionally, we need improvement on the O-line. Great thing about the O-line, while talent-wise they may not be the best in the country, but they got a lot of pelps on the wall last year. 4 to 5 stars coming back. We did recruit well, and then we had a lot of guys that got playing time last year. So Cordell Thomas, another big time recruit, top guard coming out last year. For all intents and purposes, I expect him to get a lot of playing time this year. I don't know if he's going to step in and play right away, but I expect him to get a lot of run this fall. And I expect that group of guys to perform better. Our tackles definitely can be better. Decalis, our right tackle, probably should be playing, as everyone knows, probably should be playing in the interior. He doesn't have the natural athleticism that you like to see at that position, but he gets the job done, and I feel like another year on his belt, should, bear fruit. Again, need to get that progression out of the quarterbacks. The one thing out of the spring that I came out feeling is I can't wait to see the Brennan boy get out there and play, Miles Brennan, in the next couple of years. The boy seems to have a cannon for all intents and purposes. If you pull up the spring game, see him play a few times, you're gonna see a few pitch and catch moments where you're like, man, that shit just came right off. Like, it was a beat. And so I'm looking forward to that. I feel like as far as the quarterback position is concerned, it's in great hands. And next year, the 2020 class, we already have 2, if I'm not mistaken, top 14 quarterbacks. I think we got a top 14 and a top 10. One of the boys are Louisiana, both of them 6'4", 6'6". So, the future is looking well at quarterback. It's just, unfortunately, at LSU, the quarterback position hasn't been coached up like, we feel like they should be, particularly at a institution or a program like LSU. And again, man, these wide receivers need to not drop the goddamn ball, man. With that said, I feel like we're going to have a nice upgrade at the running back position with Emory. There's a couple young cats that was there last year that didn't get a lot of run. I feel like they're going to get some run this year. Shout out to that boy, 22, Clyde. But he should be a third down back and special teams guy. He got a little wiggle with him. He got some heart with him. You know what I'm saying? He definitely got some heart with him. But he just he don't have that get up and go talent with him. With that said, there's a few guys I'm looking forward to seeing this year. Clayson, got number 4, linebacker, freak. Straight freak.
Yes!
And got injured in the Miami game last year. I think it was an MCL tear. I feel like we probably ain't going to see the best out of him until around October, maybe even November. But, man, that boy's a stud. I can't wait to see him back on the stand. That hurt. Lawrence and Delpit, I expect them to be what they are. I don't know if Delpit got any, he played at such a level. I can't see him getting much better. But he's a plug-and-play guy. You know what I'm saying? He's an All-American. I feel like he's going to be an All-American again this year. And, I feel like the defense is going to be one of the best in the league this year. We always have a great defense. But this year is going to be, I feel like, we can be the best defense in the league this year. With the depth that we finally have on the defensive line. We always got studs, running in the back half of the defense. And, it's all about the O at this time, as every year. It's about the O. What can the offense do? With that said, looking at the season, we start off with Georgia State. Could be a rough one. I mean, it's the start of the year. But at the same time, I feel like that if you want to play a team like that, that's the time of the year you want to play in. You want to play in the first game of the year when guys want to, they're tired of beating up on each other, and they can focus on that first game and beat the shit out them boys. It's probably going to be closer than I would like it to be. but I fully expect that to win. Now, going into the Texas game, it's a big game. The boys out in Vegas have them favored by 7 on the road. That's telling you how much they don't respect this Texas school. Texas had a good year last year. A lot of people, want to conflate them beating Georgia to them being better than what they are. But I feel like, again, that's one of those situations where, Georgia went from potentially playing for a national championship to not playing Texas, who, let's be frank, they haven't been good over the last few years. Just to put it frank, like they haven't been good. They've been underwhelming, and it's as anyone that ever played this game before, no matter what level you played at, you get in games with teams you're better than them, and Georgia is definitely better than Texas, and you don't really want to be there, so you don't really pay attention, you don't capitalize, you don't execute as well as you've been executing all year. And next thing you know, you look up, it's late second quarter and it's a game. And you let them boys feel like they can play with you, and now it's a game. And it's hard to turn it on at that point. And they beat them, and they beat them good. And I'm not going to take anything away from them. They won that game, and shouts out to them, you know what I'm saying? But they play that game, 9 more times. I don't see them winning more than 2 more, real talk. And with that said, going into this game, I feel we're going to win by 10. I feel that's a 10 game. A lot of people want to say that 7 is a high number, but I feel like we're 10 points better than them. Even if it's one of those things where it's a good game to the fourth quarter, we up 3, and then we get a put them to sleep touchdown by Emory late in the fourth quarter. We still cover the spread, and it's exactly as the experts in Vegas said it was going to be. We're better than this team. That's just frank. We're better than them. We've been at this level. We've been recruiting better than them. We got better players than them, and let's just be frank. I don't feel like they have the depth that we have, and a lot of our issues is the lack of depth. And I'm sitting here telling you we got more depth than them. So I feel like that's a dub. And the funny thing about this schedule, it actually works out pretty fucking well for the Tigers. It's a tough schedule. I'm not going to sit and say, I can sit here and if someone want to say they're going to go, win 8 games, I can see that happening. But I don't think they're going to. I think that's on the low end of it. At any rate, it sets up in 3 4-game seasons. They have an off week in September 28th. Then they have another bye week the week before the Alabama game, naturally. And it sets up Georgia State, UT, another rental win, Northwestern State, and then Vandy. I feel like, again, the first 4 games, is the UT game is the big game of that season. And I feel we can go through that 4-0. Coming back, you have Utah State, Florida, Mississippi State, and then Auburn. Utah State's a pretty good team, but again, I feel like it sets up again perfectly off of an off week. They can really focus in on it, so I feel like that's a win. Can Utah State pull out Troy victory? Yes, they're good enough to do that. But if we get into that situation where we're there 4-0, the table is set for us to potentially play for it all, and I think we're going to take them out. Then leading up to the Florida game, we owe them an ass whooping. Let's just be frank. We owe them an ass whooping. We were better than them last year, and I feel like we're going to we're gonna do what we need to do this year and take them home. I mean, take that victory home. That's another dub. Could we lose that game? Yes. But I feel very, confident that we're the better team, and we're gonna do what we're supposed to do at home, beat them. Mississippi State, I feel like they're coming back down to earth. They're gonna be good teams. You're gonna have to beat them. They're a 7 to 8 win team. 8, 9 being their like ceiling. I don't see them going more than 9 wins, and in order for them to win 9, they're going to beat us. But I see them winning 7 to 8 games. I feel like even though that's on the road, I feel like we'll be able to beat them, especially coming out that Florida victory, and then the Auburn game. I'm never really impressed with Auburn, if I'm just being honest. Yes, I'm not a fan of their coach. I'm not a fan of their offense. I always feel like they're a bit overrated. Do they beat Alabama? Yes, it's because it's a rivalry game, and people always can get up and play outside of their minds in those type of games. And then that's a big fucking game. Yes. So, but at the same time, you can't be a top program and have three win seasons regularly. Like every 4 years, they have like a shit show of a year and win 3 to 4 games. Like if you're a top program, you don't do that, man. Like you always going bowling, and they don't do that. And in that instance, I just feel like we're a better program than them. And we get them at home this year, and I feel like that's another dub. In my mind, we're 8-0 going into that second bye week before Alabama. At worst, 6-2. At worst, 6-2, and that's Texas and Florida. In my mind, but I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid this year. We're gonna be 8-0 going to that. Coming off the bye, we're going to T-Town. One thing I would say is I'm gonna go ahead and admit that I'm gonna put the L for this one, but I feel like this is the year we're gonna beat them. It's been too long. And Alabama always has a year where they come back down to earth. And I feel like they've been too high too long. They're actually dealing with some of the issues that, we usually have to deal with, which is a lot of underclassmen leaving early. Yeah, they have a lot of talent, but look, talent only goes so far. Talent only goes so far, and at the same time, experience usually outweighs that talent here and there. So, while I'm putting it on the paper as an L, in the back of my mind, I feel like this would be the year, because if we can get to this point and we're fairly healthy, not too many losses of our top, 2 in our two deep, I feel very confident going in that game and performing well. But I will, for the purposes of this show, say that that's an L. Followed by Ole Miss. At Ole Miss, they usually play us tough, but it's another situation where they coming back down to earth. I think that's a 6-7 win team at best, and I even see them going 4-8. It wouldn't shock me if they 4-8, 5-7. We're better than them, and the same with Arkansas. We're better than them. Finishing up the year with A&M coming into Baton Rouge, and again, that's a situation where we were better than them last year. We're better than them this year, and we should beat they fucking ass. I take extra pride in beating their ass. Growing up in Baton Rouge, In the early 80s, mid to late, in the 80s and late 90s, we played them every fucking year and they beat us just about every fucking time. I can, in my mind, distinctly recall twice beating them. And both times it was like a close game. And in both times, I was like, oh, we're going to lose this one. Didn't watch the game. We ended up winning. I was like, oh, shit, we won that game. So since they got into the SEC, I took extra pride in busting their ass every year. And I return to that. Now, granted, I will say this. I have a lot of respect for their coach. Jimbo Fisher is a hell of a coach. And when he's motivated, properly motivated, you know what I'm saying, he's going to be a problem. And A&M's going to be a problem moving forward. But I feel like this year we have some angst on our chest about that L from last year, and I think the boys going to show up for that. With that said, that's if you were, following along at home, you see a 11-1 record. In my mind, I'm feeling 11-1, 10-2. I think we're going to win at least 10 games in the regular season. I could see us, losing Bama and Texas, Florida and Bama. Those are 3 games that I'm most worried about, concerned about. Because Texas, just because it's early in the year and on the road. Florida, just because they have a very good coach. You say what you want about Mullins, but he's a damn good coach. And then just Bama, because we just haven't been able to figure that Rubik's Cube out yet. So, but at the end of the day, I feel 9-3, 11-2 is 11-1 is our regular season record. I'm going to go on the record and say 11-1, with the possibility of getting into the playoffs this year. We got a lot of people coming back, man. That's pretty much what I am basing my prognostications on, is the fact that we got, again, 17 to 18 starters returning this year. The wide receiver core, no, they were a weak link last year. One of our weak links last year as well was the running back core. You bring in the number 1, number 2 running back. We got a bunch of young cats I feel like just didn't get the opportunity last year because, LSU has this, I don't even know what to call it, but they have this tinge of going with the older guy. And in that instance, a lot of the young cats from last year didn't get it, like Curry. I think it's a boy named Porter as well. I'm looking forward to see them boys get some actual time to play this year, along with Emory. There's another cat from Southern Lab that came in this year as well. I'm looking forward to seeing them guys on the field and see what, if we have some actual difference makers in the backfield. With that said, man, I'm looking for a hell of a year this year out of my Tigers. Plan to see at least 2 games this year, and I'm ready to be back on top of that hill again, maybe. With that said, moving on to the last topic of today on Off the Porch. We got to talk about them Pelicans. We got to talk about the Pelicans, man. So last year we had some issues with my man AD, Rich Paul, the Lakers, LeBron, all them cats. You know what I'm saying? All those cats. And had a shit show of a year. I have my personal opinion on it. It always bugs me out, and I talk to my guys all the time about it. We always wonder why these black guys don't like playing in New Orleans, man. It's hard for us to find that. And it's always, the other guys that go down there and fall in love and never want to leave. Our hope is that this time with a younger cat like Zion coming in, that, he gets down there with his group, because it's a young group, and, they put together something special. With that said, a week ago today, the Pelicans and the Lakers finally came to terms on a trade, at least in principle. It can't really go into play until the 6th of July, which is next Saturday. No, I take that back. 2 Saturdays from now, 2 weeks from now. But in the trade, the Lakers got Anthony Davis. And in return, the New Orleans Pelicans got Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks, including the 4th pick in Thursday's draft. On Thursday, the Pelicans parlayed that 4th pick with the Hawks, as well as a 57th pick and a future first-rounder and Solomon Hill for the 8th and the 17th pick in the first round, and then the 35th pick. I like what my man David Griffin is doing out there. He's getting a young team, putting it together, and I like what he's doing. And they turned around and they drafted, what everyone knew was going to happen on the first pick, Zion Williams. Turned around, got your boy Jackson Hayes, with the 8th pick. A center out of University of Texas. Nikolai Alexander Walker, guard, in the 17th pick out of Virginia Tech. And then in the second round they got a shooting guard out of Brazil, Silva, ML Silva. I think he's probably going to be a draft and stash guy. But I like the idea. Get some picks for the future, and if he pans out in 3 years, he could be a contributor on his team, a la, what's your boy in the Spurs, much like him. With that said, because of all those moves, and particularly the Solomon Hill move, the New Orleans Pelicans actually have $32 million, roughly $32 million to play with in free agency. Now, they won't be going after the big guy, the big guns, the Kyries, the Kawhis, the Butlers. They're not necessarily in there. And, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if we need that type of character on the team at this point. I mean, that would be dope if we can get Jimmy Butler. I think that would be dope. But with that said, we do need more big men, and we need another shooter. From all that I see on the Scuttlebug on the internet, the big man that they could be looking at is Brook Lopez and Al Horford, and some of the shooting guards that they can, or shooting fours that they can look at is Tobias Harris and I guess re-upping with Mrkovic, Nikolai Mrkovic. He's already on the team. And they also have mid exception of about $5 million. So, in my mind, at least what I would hope is that they'll bring back Peyton. I like the fact that, your boy's from New Orleans. I would like to keep him. Not to mention he's a solid player and be a great role player. I think he'd be a good role player on a playoff team. And I think he's worth every bit of that 4.7, roughly $5 million in that exception. Out of the big man, I probably would hope for Lopez. Lopez would be good. We need that veteran presence in the locker room. I know Drew's there, and I have a lot of respect for Drew. Drew's a damn good player. And I like that the team is moving forward saying that it's Drew's team. And I like that. He's been there for about 6 years now. And, I think it's time to move and take a little bit of pressure off of Zion. Let him come in and kind of get his feet on him. As we say down in the bayou, get his gumbo together. Take a little while to get the gumbo together, so to speak. Yeah, I like that. And if we can add someone like Lopez, and if we had to go with one of those lesser known guys, Harris, I think Harris would be a good addition to this team. But one of the guys I would hope for is D'Angelo Russell. I think I think he'll be a good addition. He's definitely scoring in the bottle. But at the same time, I do like Lonzo. I mean, at least from a defensive standpoint, I think he could be essentially what Rondo is. Long, athletic. And the one thing about being long and athletic, defensively, that shows up everywhere. That's all about effort and want. And I feel like we can be a hell of a team with that group. But if I had my choice, it would probably be Lopez and Harris out of free agency. The one thing I would love is D'Angelo Russell. But all intents and purposes, the future is bright in New Orleans. And unlike any time under the Anthony Davis era, you actually kind of see how this team can get better. I'm excited about it. At the very least, they're going to be must-watch TV. They're going to be entertaining. It should be at least entertaining brand of basketball. They should be getting up and down the floor, playing hella defense, and let Zion be able to do what Zion does well, which is play defense and finish strong at the rim. With that said, and this is again before all the free agent moves have happened, and all the preseason work has done, but again, I see them being very competitive in all their games. And from what I can see, I see them fighting for at least the 8th, maybe even 7th seed in the West if everything goes right. And I'll be honest with you, that would excite me like a motherfucker. But again, it's one of those things. Sometimes it's all about hope and can you see what we're trying to accomplish? Like when they went and got Boogie 2 years ago, I can see that. I was disappointed when they didn't just re-up him, give him the money. Because at the end of the day, I think Boogie even said it. He knew when they didn't re-sign him that they weren't going to keep Anthony at that point, and I kind of felt that way too. And I never begrudge another black man to get out there and go get what he feels is his. Why it stings in a bit in the sense that we just went through this same ordeal about 6 years ago with Chris Paul. The only difference between these two, I would say, is Chris Paul willed us to the playoffs every year. Anthony didn't. And if I had a knock on Anthony, that would be it. While I can appreciate his talent, I can't freely give him, the status that he got in the league without him getting his team to the playoff. Now, we can go back and forth about the fact that I don't feel like I think it's fucked up that we in the West. Like, no reason why we should be in the West. But that's neither here nor there. That's what we got to deal with. And again, I'm with the moves that David Griffin has made this far, and I'm a fan of Gentry as well. I think he's a good coach, and I want to see him do well. And I'm hoping the best for these guys, man. I'm on board. I'm on board with what's going on, and we'll see where it goes from there. With that said, feel free to reach out to me for Fresh Off the Porch at Joe Cool Media, JEUX Cool KEWL Media on all my social media platforms. If you have any questions, you want to discuss anything in particular, reach out. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Again, it's going to be the home of all your entertainment needs, focusing primarily on sports, concerts, small and big screen, and even, concerts. And like I said, tonight I'm going to go check out Cedric Entertainer at the West Palm Beach Improv. I'm looking forward to that. Yo. With that said, also, Look out for the new episode of Hot Takes and Half Truths coming soon. Your boy Jacory is back. Just Kingin is back in the building. Back on the scene, baby. And make sure you subscribe to us on all your social media at Hot Takes HT Squared Pod on both IG, Twitter. You can find us on SoundCloud and YouTube at Hot Takes and Half Truth Podcast. And if you're true to new school, old school, feel free to drop us an email at htsquaredpod@gmail.com. Looking forward in the next couple of weeks to get out to New Orleans for the Essence Fest. July 5th, you'll find me at Ladies Love R&B at the Empress Lounge. DJ'd by my boy and frat brother DJ Groove Kid. Also have Brian Michael Cox as well involved. He'll be on the ones and twos, and hosted by my man from another, to Corey TQ Hatch. Look forward to seeing you guys out there, and if, feel free to reach out to me on all my platforms. Again, you can find me at I am Ivy Joe on IG and Twitter. Till then, look forward to seeing y'all next time, baby.
Hey, I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.